TV presents.
Welcome to Wines du Jour. We're here at the Riviera Hotel. Now, if you're not familiar with Las Vegas, you may not know, but the Riviera Hotel sits right on the Strip. It's been here longer than almost any other hotel, and it's a great place to visit when you have a chance. If you come to Las Vegas, be sure you come here for two reasons. One, the gaming, the hospitality, the room, and all the food is good, but specifically, my favorite steakhouse. This is called R Steak and Seafood, a beautiful restaurant here in the Riviera, and I have to tell you, the people that work here are very knowledgeable. We've been coming here quite often over the last 12 years, and I have to tell you, these people are super. They know exactly what you like. They remember that sort of thing. They remember your name. It's the type of hospitality that made Las Vegas #1. So tonight, we're going to feature 3 wines as we normally do, all 3 from Italy. The first one is going to be their sparkling wine. You probably know that champagne is only champagne in Champagne, France. Everywhere else it's sparkling wine. But in Italy, they make their own, and they don't call it sparkling wine either. They call it Prosecco. And then we have 2 other red wines that are going to be very, very good, along with the food that the chef is going to put together. I have a special guest tonight, Bob Cranston. I want you to meet him, so stick around. Follow me in there, I'll introduce you to him here on Wines du Jour. Thanks for watching. Welcome back. I promised to introduce you to the chef. The chef here today is a room chef, and I have to tell you, the Riviera went to a lot of trouble to find one of the best chefs around to come to work in this steakhouse. I told you how great the food was, how good the service was and everything just a few moments ago. Well, I want you to know the food is outstanding because it's grade A. When I say grade A, I mean the chef himself checks everything that comes into the kitchen. And you know, if you think about this now, if somebody brings you a box of lobster tails, a whole box of lobster tails, and let's just say hypothetically there's 24 in a box, the average person working in a restaurant just takes it and puts it in the walk-in, signs for it, and off they go. Chef takes the lid off and looks at all 24 of them and makes sure that it's something that he would eat if he prepared it. And if it's not up to his standard, it goes back. Well, guess what? It only takes 1 or 2 trips like that. The seafood guy makes sure from then on that when he brings the seafood, it's the way it's supposed to be. Chef Matt is our guy tonight, and he just put a brand new menu together. And I'm going to ask him a couple questions about the menu. And I want you to know before I even talk to him about it, is that yes, if you're a vegetarian or a vegan and you want some special food, you want steamed vegetables, anything like that, this Chef Matt and his staff will be happy to put it together for you. If you have a salt-free diet, no problem. Just let the food server know, they'll take care of you. That's what a great steakhouse is all about. This is not only steak. If you don't like red meat, that's okay. They have seafood that's fresh. I mentioned lobster. They have all kinds of fish and so on and so forth on the menu. Pretty good stuff. Chef Matt, thank you very much for sharing some of your hospitality with us this evening. Absolutely. And coming out and spend some time with us.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been in the food business, or when did you decide you wanted to do this for a living?
Probably before I knew any better, but I started out at 13. I went to actually a seafood restaurant in my hometown of Ithaca, New York, and knocked on the back door, said, I'll do whatever you want. just let me know, and it was all downhill from there.
No kidding, it's downhill from there.
Yeah.
No, actually, that's probably the very best way. Looking back at it, aren't you glad you did it that way?
Absolutely.
You know, so many of people that we know have kids that want to get into the food business. They go to a culinary school. They think they're going to be an executive chef when they get out of school, and then they get the bill for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, and they find out that they're online with a guy that's never done anything before. Well, the good thing is they've learned a lot of the basics, and they move up pretty quickly. But they all start out, like you're talking about, not necessarily doing dishes,
no.
but they spent 2 years studying, and then they start on the line as well. So I agree with you. I started out the same way. My first job was peeling 40 pounds of potatoes the first day. I had blisters on my hands. I had no idea what I was doing or how to do it, you know. But that's the way it happens.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
You got to start somewhere.
So now you were able to come over here. They were lucky enough to get you, is what I should say. But you also said, let's work on the menu. And you've really made some great improvements. You're not trying to be a gourmet restaurant that charges $250 a person, but you're going to give them great food at a very reasonable price. I have to say your prices are pretty low.
Oh yeah.
You could raise them if you wanted to, you know. But I do know that the quality of the beef and so on, as an example, or more importantly for me, the lamb, comes from Colorado.
Right.
And for those of you that don't know, Colorado lamb, in my opinion, and I think Chef Matt's going to agree with you,
100%.
that the Colorado lamb is by far the best lamb in the entire world. Not from New Zealand, not from Australia, not from other parts of America, but from Colorado. That's a very, very important thing. So what is the favorite thing on your menu, your new menu, for you?
My personal favorite of the entire thing is going to be the short ribs. We marinate them in a horseradish marinade for 2 days. And we slow braise them for about 12 hours. And I go beyond fork tender. I call it spoon tender.
Okay.
You cut it with your spoon. So it's a great dish. It's something that I take a lot of pride in, and you got to try it.
Well, and this is going to be one of the things we're going to try this evening along with one of our wines. So I'm really looking forward to that. Now, do you find that by today's change in food consumption, I guess is a nice way to put it, over the last couple of years that people have changed what they're eating and so on and so forth, do you think desserts are as important as they used to be, or do you think appetizers are more important than they used to be?
I think all three, the three-course kind of thing is kind of getting pushed aside. It's always one or the other. Me personally, I'm an appetizer person. I can always skip dessert, but I think they're all equally important. If people are spending their time, their money, and whatever special occasion coming out to your restaurant, I think every part is equally as important. The great steaks that I buy to the chocolate I use in the cake. It's all one food.
Well, I found that steaks are a very important thing for most restaurants, especially one that features steaks.
Right.
But putting steaks on the grill is not quite as simple as a lot of people think.
No, it's not quite your backyard barbecue. For me, it all starts with the steaks I select, and it was a long process. And now we feature all Black Angus. It's all grain-fed, Nebraska. I can name them if you want to, but I won't.
Well, no, I understand, but my point was not just the meat, which is obviously the very, very important part, but when you start out with a steak, now they have what they call the grill man. You have somebody that works the grill, and this guy can do as many steaks as you can get orders for.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Well, this restaurant holds about 120 people, and I'm not sure you're going to have 120 in here at one time ordering at the same time, so he could keep up with the orders. But when some people want it extra rare, some people want it rare, medium well, and then you try to convert the well done to a hamburger, but sometimes that doesn't work, and you still have to do it because the customer is always right. He has to know when to move that steak from one side of the grill being the very hottest, the other side being cooler, when to move it and when to take it off and all that sort of thing. And it's a real, you have to be an expert.
Absolutely. It's not something you learn overnight. Back in my early days of being a broiler cook, I was doing that all while feeding wood into the grill, because there's a wood fire grill. So there's a lot of emotions that have to go on.
Yeah.
But the most important thing for a good steak is you got to let it rest.
Well, I just want you to remember the Riviera Hotel on the Strip in Las Vegas, and when you get there for lunch or dinner, come into the R Steak and Seafood restaurant. Ask for Chef Matt, tell him you saw him on TV and you want to taste some of his food. He'll take very good care of you. We'll be back right after these messages.
Switch to DirecTV and find out how to say goodbye to messy cable wires and boxes. America's #1 satellite television provider is the undisputed leader in sports with the most full-time HD channels anywhere. Get DirecTV today and receive a free Genie upgrade. One HD DVR powers your whole home. There's no equipment to buy and no startup costs. Package offers start at just $24.99. There's never been a better time to upgrade your television experience. Call your authorized DirecTV dealer today.
Welcome back. My guest this evening is a gentleman that I've known for a number of years. He's been here in the Las Vegas area for quite a while. He's one of the most knowledgeable people I know in the food and wine business. And he had some free time this evening. He said he could come by and spend a little time with us. Bob Cranston is his name. And Bob is going to tell us a little bit about the 3 wines that we're going to feature this evening on Wines du Jour. But the first one is going to be a Prosecco. Now, before Bob says anything, I just want to mention something about Prosecco that a lot of people aren't familiar with. Number one is, it is the Italian answer, other than one of the others, of champagne. It is a bubbly, if you will, and Prosecco is pretty unique. Normally, the grapes come from the Veneto or the northeast part of Italy, Italian, of course, and some other things that are good. Tell us a little bit about it. First of all, Bob, thank you for coming with us and spending
Thank you,
some time.
Les. Pleasure to be with you. My first time on your show, and you know, when you have a glass of bubbly and,
how bad can that be?
and good friendship and camaraderie and
You
some
bet.
lovely food from Chef Matt. I'm looking forward to try steak tartare. So we say salut or prost or skol or à votre santé.
Or down the hatch.
Well, the nice thing about Prosecco is it's very similar, produced in the same way as champagne, with a little bit lower atmosphere, so not quite as effervescent and not quite as acidic as champagne. So it's a lovely aperitif, but it does pair nicely with food, and it has a special place in my heart because my ancestors are from the Alto Adige, the Trento, in the neighborhood of the Veneto.
Okay, that's
so,
good.
you know, it's predominantly a German-speaking area. There's, you know, obviously lots of Italians as well, and lots of grapes like Riesling and Traminer and Pinot Gris and so forth. But this is a very, very unique wine, and over the last, I'd say, 5 to 10 years, it has grown in popularity
Absolutely.
10 or 20 times over in the U.S.
absolutely.
because of its approachability, its friendliness with food, and its price point as well. You know, these wines are a great, great value.
Well, one of the things about Italy is that they have 2 sparkling wines they like. One, Asti Spumante, you probably know that by its name, and the other one, Prosecco. And I think Bob was absolutely right. Prosecco has just grown by leaps and bounds over the last few years because it has kind of a unique taste to it. And when you pair it with food, I think it's a lot easier to pair than Asti Spumante, and certainly some other things like champagne or sparkling wine or sect, or depends on where you, what country you're in. But their sparkling wines are all different, including the champagne. So what we have tonight, Chef Matt here at R Steak and Seafood has put together something that I think is pretty nice. It's tuna, that's fresh tuna. That means uncooked tuna tartare. And tuna tartare is not hard to make if you've got fresh product. And that's really the key.
Quality is key.
Absolutely. It has to be the best. And if it isn't, don't try it. It's not a healthy thing to do.
Don't try this at home. But it looks great. And he mentioned it was a watercress pesto.
Watercress
with no garlic. No garlic. So that was interesting too.
What's going to happen is you're going to taste the tartare or the tuna for tuna's sake. It's not going to be masked by anything. And that, along with the taste of this Prosecco, I think is going to be pretty good. I want to mention something about Prosecco and bubbles. I don't know if you can see the bubbles in my glass or not, and see what's left of Bob's there. The bubbles are pretty much dissipated.
I could use a little more or less. It's just so delicious.
Let me do that.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. It's such a pretty bottle too, the blue Prosecco from Riando.
Yeah, and that happens to be about $14 a bottle.
$14 is all.
So what I'm saying is bubbles, when it comes to sparkling wine or champagne, we like to say how many bubbles are in a glass. The typical answer is about 1 million, and nobody can say no, it isn't. But the other thing is, the smaller the bubbles, the better the quality of the product. And I have to say, these are pretty doggone tiny. So that means it's a pretty good product. For $14, I don't think you can go wrong.
Yeah, very, very well made, and it's made just like champagne is produced, but just from a different region. And Prosecco is the DOC, or the Denominazione Regione Controllata. So that means it's a very special place. It's made under very strict laws with specific grapes. But most people couldn't tell the difference with champagne, except that it's a third the price.
Can I taste this?
Can I try this?
Absolutely.
That's great.
Wow.
That is great.
That is delicious.
And I really enjoyed, hearing Chef Matt talk about the new menu and the program here, because it's a beautiful room, and everything he's prepared looks delightful.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a great show. I really
lovely.
like that.
Lovely.
So tartare is something that you can go to a lot of upscale restaurants and find. Tartare made from tuna is not as openly available as with other things like beef. But if you can find it, check it out. It's very, very tasty.
And it works beautifully with this too.
And it works well. So this is number 1. We got to go to a break. When we come back, wine number 2, which I think you're going to be surprised, and Chef Matt's favorite food on his menu is something we're going to pair with that wine. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after these messages.
Switch to DirecTV and find out how to say goodbye to messy cable wires and boxes. America's #1 satellite television provider is the undisputed leader in sports with the most full-time HD channels anywhere. Get DirecTV today and receive a free Genie upgrade. One HD DVR powers your whole home. There's no equipment to buy and no startup costs. Package offers start at just $24.99. There's never been a better time to upgrade your television experience. Call your authorized DirecTV dealer today.
Back, we're here with Bob Cranston. We're talking about wine number 2 now, and the food to pair with it here at the R Steak and Seafood. Now, this beautiful wine, I'd like him to tell us a little bit about it. Amarone or Amarone, it depends on whether you have an Italian accent or not.
Well, everybody, if you're not Italian, you want to be Italian.
There you go. Two kinds of people,
yeah,
Italians and those that
want to be Italian, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm only half Italian. I'm half Italian and half Scottish, which means I'm mean and cheap, which is, it's not true. That's why I can joke about it. But Amarone di Valpolicella. So it's made in a similar way to Valpolicella from the same grape, Corvino, also from the Veneto where our Prosecco is from. But Amarone is made with a little bit riper grapes that are often raisins. So in other words, they're dried on big straw mats. Some of the water is taken out, which concentrates the sugars, which gives you a little bit higher alcohol content. And this one is pretty firm at 15% alcohol. So a wine that's that rich and has all these black fruit, raisiny, plummy, fig-like characters, maybe even prune type of things, black fruit, coffee, sure, absolutely, red currants, needs a big food to stand up to it.
That's true. And we have that tonight.
Well, there you go.
Chef Matt has put together something that I think America's second favorite thing to have when it comes to a steakhouse, and that's short ribs. If it's not a steak itself, it's short ribs, almost always.
I would think
so.
He
has a special way of preparing his short ribs, and I have to tell you, they're going to just fall apart. He says he doesn't cook them until they're fork tender. He cooks them until they are spoon tender. So that's a good thing. Short ribs is good because, as Bob mentioned, this Amarone is a little bit heavy in alcohol. Heavy meaning it's around 15%. And as I've told you many times here on Wines du Jour, that the higher the alcohol, the more difficult it is to pair with food. So when you have something big and bold like a short rib and put it with the 15% alcohol, it's going to work out really good. Let's take a taste of this.
It's going to stand up to it. And normally in Italy, if they were serving an Amarone, you'd probably just have it maybe with a cheese course. Maybe with some nice hard cheese, a Reggiano Parmigiano, something like that. But definitely, stand up to that. I also like it with nuts. And I even like it with figs, prunes, cheese, nuts. Wonderful thing. Yeah. And I'm not a big meat eater, but I'm dying to try this because
just a taste. You don't have to eat the whole thing necessarily, but
I want to be a good guest.
There you go.
I like to get invited back.
But it's always good. You like pairing food and wine, so this is right up your alley, even though it's meat.
Oh my God!
To some of the other. Isn't that good?
That's pretty remarkable. And he said he's got these little horseradish mashed potatoes, which we want to try.
Yeah, and so that was something I wanted to bring up. When you're making mashed potatoes, and most everybody that cooks at home has their own way of making mashed potatoes, but typically you're going to peel, cut, boil potatoes for 20 minutes or so, and then you can drain them, and then you can start mashing them. How you mash them doesn't really make any difference, except I see people on TV, and I just disagree 100%, putting those potatoes into a food processor. That is not the way to make mashed potatoes because they end up gummy and they don't taste good. So use your hand, nothing better than manual labor to mash them. Use a potato masher and you'll be fine.
Otherwise, it's like eating baby food.
That's right.
It's like eating baby
exactly. But the beautiful part is putting something in the potatoes instead of just straight mashed potatoes, which they're doing here, for maybe enough people, let's say for 4 people. You're going to do, say, 6 or 7 potatoes. You put in about 2, maybe 3 tablespoons of, you can buy horseradish in a jar if you want to do it that way, if you don't want to grate it and do it the old-fashioned way. But that'll work out really well. And serve that with something like these short ribs and this Amarone, and I think you're in really good shape.
That's incredible.
This retails for around $28.
$28, which is very affordable. The Riondo wines are all in a very affordable price point. We want to make the wines accessible so that people can kind of get their feet wet. There are certainly Amarones that are $100, $200, $300, $400, even $500 a bottle.
Right.
It's a very small DOC, so there's not a lot of wine produced from Amarone, the Amarone di Valpolicella. So they are generally a little bit more expensive than, say, your average Chianti.
The demand is higher.
Demand is very high. Demand is very high. If you visit any good Italian restaurant, especially here in Las Vegas or New York or San Francisco, Amarone is a very hot category,
Right.
because the wines offer a lot of flavor
Right.
and a lot of character, and you get your money's worth with Amarone.
Well, short ribs, how bad can that be? Mashed potatoes with a little bit of horseradish and some Amarone. It was excellent. Got to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to try food number 3 and wine number 3, which is something completely different than what we've had so far. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after these messages.
Switch to DirecTV and find out how to say goodbye to messy cable wires and boxes. America's #1 satellite television provider is the undisputed leader in sports with the most full-time HD channels anywhere. Get DirecTV today and receive a free Genie upgrade. One HD DVR powers your whole home. There's no equipment to buy and no startup costs. Package offers start at just $24.99. There's never been a better time to upgrade your television experience. Call your authorized DirecTV dealer today.
Welcome back to Wines du Jour. We're about to try wine number 3, which is simply called 1919 Riando Malbec. Now, you might know Malbec is a varietal that's very, very popular in Argentina. It's the #1 consumed red wine in Argentina, even over Cabernet Sauvignon, which is, you probably know if you've watched the show, the most popular red wine consumed all over the world, Cabernet Sauvignon. But Malbec. Now, Malbec has its unique taste and beautiful flavors, and it goes really well with certain kinds of food in particular. One of them happens to be lamb.
Sure.
Chef Matt has taken to pair with this lamb is succotash. Now, I don't know about you. I was raised in Dayton, Ohio, so I know what succotash is. Some people in certain parts of the country probably don't. But theoretically, we're talking about lima beans and corn together, cooked together, called succotash. It's a very nice dish, and I have to tell you, without even tasting it, I can tell you it's going to go very well with the lamb and, of course, with the wine.
I'm going right for the succotash.
There you go. The good thing is we've got to go. Time flies when you're having fun. We've had a great time with all 3 wines this evening. And Bob Cranston, thank you very much for being my guest and giving us a lot of information about these 3 wines. Until next time, thanks for watching. You've been watching Wines du Jour. Good night, everybody.
I have to say my favorite wine and food pairing would have to be the 3rd selection. I think that the Malbec with the lamb was perfect. The lamb had a really bold flavor versus the Malbec that had a little bit of subtle tones. I have to say I loved all the wine, but as far as food pairings go, the 3rd was my favorite.
Switch to DirecTV and find out how to say goodbye to messy cable wires and boxes. America's #1 satellite television provider is the undisputed leader in sports with the most full-time HD channels anywhere. Get DirecTV today and receive a free Genie upgrade. One HD DVR powers your whole home. There's no equipment to buy and no startup costs. Package offers start at just $24.99. There's never been a better time to upgrade your television experience. Call your authorized DirecTV dealer today.
This has been a presentation of VATV.